All right. What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to another episode of The Truth with Najeh Wilkins. Man, y'all know it's my favorite show to do, man. Obviously, it is college football, man. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to get into today that we're going to talk about, man. Y'all know we're doing team specific: Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Miami, and obviously Tennessee. And then we'll get into some college football just news kind of going on around the space, some busy things. And we'll get some reactions as well. And again, if you guys loving the show, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hype up the video for me, please. That pushes me out more. And then anything y'all want to see on the channel, let me know. I will make specific segments for you guys. If you want breakdowns, if you guys want me to talk about certain teams, whatever. I will make a segment just for that for you guys. But I know team specific was something you guys highlighted, something you guys continued to say that you wanted to see. So we're going to be definitely doing more, obviously, of that with those 6 teams. All right. But let's go ahead and get into today's show. And we're going to start off with the Michigan Wolverines. Now, this was a couple days ago, you know what I'm saying? But I had to put this on the show. I thought about reacting to it on my TikTok. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to just save it for the show, man. Because this pass right here from Bryce Underwood is what we wanted to see. And this is why I said last week about Bryce Underwood. I said, Coach, you're only going to run the twos and the threes. You're not going to run the ones and the twos. Like, we want to see what Bryce Underwood has been up to. We want to see what he's been doing with the Michigan Wolverines. Don't hide him from us, please, Coach. We want to see this. And obviously, we see that Bryce Underwood is doing this thing, getting out obviously right there to the right, and this a behind the back pass. It's only a select people and very accurate, right in the hands. Receiver ain't have to do too much, easy money catch. You know what I'm saying? We love to see that, and it's only a couple people that's doing that, and one of them is Patrick Mahomes. So we love that from Bryce Underwood. You know what I'm saying? We want to know the update of what's going on with him. So it'll be very interesting. And this spring, so I ain't trying to overhype it. But looks like, you know what I'm saying? I think Bryce is gonna do pretty good in that offense under Kyle Whittingham. I think he's gonna really unlock him and get him to play at that next level. And I think the schemes and the different routes he's gonna have his receivers run and things like that. I think you're gonna see Bryce Underwood emerge and become a top guy, in my humble opinion, in the nation. Nobody's really talking about him in terms of the quarterback room or guys next up. But this guy is special and he has some very, very, very good talent. So it's a guy I wanted to bring up, obviously, today. And then there was a list that was dropped today. I was gonna actually like react to it on my TikTok. I still might, you know what I'm saying? But I want to talk about this list by Ari Wazerman, right? Very, very, very intriguing. Okay, so I want you guys' thoughts. This says college football players with breakout potential, right? Now again, sometimes when they do these lists, I don't understand why in the hell is Cam Coleman on here. What is Cam Coleman going to break out? We already know Cam Coleman, right? When we think about breakout potential or the ability to break out, think about guys that are under the radar, guys that had a chance to kind of show who they are. Cam Coleman's known. So to me, like that's not really a breakout potential player. Could he put up numbers? Of course. Can he be, Don's the number one receiver in college football? Sure. But we've already known he was a top receiver at Auburn. We know this. They didn't have the quarterbacks. So to me, I don't really like that answer. Drew Mestemaker, that's not a bad option. He was also known in the national, obviously, landscape of what North Texas was able to do this year. If you knew, you knew. So for him, Oklahoma State, I would say that's not a bad option. But I'm going to say Caleb Hawkins. I don't know if y'all seen that run he had a couple days ago with Oklahoma State. He obviously transferred over from North Texas as well. But for me, I would change Mestemaker for Caleb Hawkins. I feel like Mestemaker's kind of known a little bit. Not seeing it in the national ranks, but he's known kind of around. Caleb Hawkins, I think, is going to be a guy for them. And last year was a true freshman. I think he is poised to break out, and I think he's going to be a player with some really good potential, right? Then he put Micah Mays. Micah Mays did ball. That's a pretty good name, right? He played really good in the spring game, and he put up a whole bunch of numbers, had a couple TDs. That's a pretty good one. Jamari Johnson's also another one I like that he put on this list. Name that's kind of flying under the radar, but definitely could break out. So that is a very good name on this list. So though the last two he cooked with, I ain't gonna lie, last two he cooked with. Trevor Goosby's another one, right? They're trying to fix that offensive line at Texas, right? They're trying to get it back to the potential that it could become so they could be that national championship contender. They can win a natty potentially this year. So Trevor Goosby is gonna be a name to kind of watch and know and see if he's gonna be able to break out. Jaron Kiwi Sakapatule, I don't like that. He's kind of already shown us what he can do. Like if you've been following ACC football, this kid can play. This kid has pulled off big time wins, right? Obviously has to bring down that interception number some, but he showed us the potential last year. So that name, again, I would replace that, right? Now, if you want to throw a couple quarterback names on here, Keelan Jones, right? He has the potential to break out. Yes, he's known, but I mean, in terms of, okay, he could be a top quarterback. Tramel Jones is another one I think that has breakout potential. You could throw Alberto Mendoza. I know he's known with his brother, but he has breakout potential, I think, as well this year. What I'm saying, as a kind of a name to know, in my humble opinion. You also can go ACC and you can look at several quarterbacks that's kind of just flying under the radar with a potential chance to, what I'm saying, shoot up and sky up, and make a big difference as well. So, Jerron Kiwi is a good one, but he's already kind of known, right? Chris Henry Jr., respected, right? You can't really go wrong with breakout potential if you put a freshman on the list. You really can't. You know what I'm saying? But I do think he has breakout potential as well. And I heard he's already running with the ones at spring practice. So that tells you all you need to know. And if they got a two-headed monster again with him in, obviously Jeremiah Smith, look the hell out. Ohio State could be a problem. Now, Ty Benefield is a good name as well. He's been sending out in spring practice with Lane Kiffin and everybody. He's been making a number of plays, big time hits, and obviously big time deflections and interceptions. So that's also a pretty good name on this list. Obviously, going to be a player to continue to watch moving forward. And then you put Trey White and you put Luke Waffle as a couple more names as well of guys that could potentially break out. Luke Waffle is not a bad name. True freshman coming in. We know how big he is and obviously explosive. But yeah, like Cam Coleman and Jerron Kiwi, like I just feel like you could have put other names. These names is already known. You got to do the names like nobody's talking about, like Corey Sims from USC, wide receiver. Been hearing a lot about him. Breakout potential, potentially. You know what I'm saying? He could become a guy for them, right? If you go, well, we already said Georgia Tech, right? If you go Miami, right? One of those receivers, Mario Wingo, you know what I'm saying? Outside of Malachi Tony, they could potentially break out, right? I just feel like there's a lot of names you could put on here. I don't know if I necessarily agree with some that are on here. Some are good, but some of them, feel like breakout, that you're not really on the radar, in my humble opinion, if you do that. So that's my thoughts, man. But we had the unveil, more national news. They had the unveil of the new college football playoff logo. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, it's pretty damn plain. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think they could have did a better job. I'm not a fan. You know what I'm saying? That's the old format. I kind of like it, right? You got the little gold trimming on it. You got obviously the four lines to it, college football playoff. It just feels bland, right? It just, all they changed was CFP. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like, okay, we're gonna change it, make it gold CFP, right? Make the logo a little bit more distinguished. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna make a logo like this, right? Not saying you had to go all out, but all you did was put CFP really, and then you changed a little bit of the shade of color, right? The shade of color looks like a little bit lighter gold. That's all you did. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like they could have did a little bit more, man. Maybe it's me harping, but if you're gonna change the college football logo, I just feel like they could have did a little bit more, bedazzled it a little bit, man, made it a little bit more intriguing, and did some things with it. I think that CFP like that is very damn bland. So I think they could have did much, much better. But just my personal take and my personal opinion on that. But I was not a big fan. They could have did much, much, much better. All right, y'all. So before we get into obviously the team specific news, one more big national headline. I mean, you can make the argument that this is, Georgia related, but I just think in general, I think this is a big headline in terms of nationality. You know what I'm saying, and what's going kind of on, and not nationality in terms of like race. I mean like national, watch it, what I'm saying, all across. But he says if you're coming here for a paycheck, then you're coming to the wrong place. Let me make sure I got it right. Okay, yeah. We're trying to motivate them to get the next check, the next level. And I think Kirby is standing on business with this. And Kirby's probably one of the few coaches that can say that, because he's gotten players consistently into the NFL where they're making these checks, right? Look at Jordan Davis. He just got a big time extension. Jalen Carter is due for a big time extension in the NFL, right? His players are getting second and third level contracts. You know what I'm saying? Being in the NFL, James Cook got paid by Buffalo, right? So Kirby is one of the few coaches in college football that can say this. And he's 100% right. Like I just did a video on TikTok with high school recruits now is making $7.5 million for 3 years. That is insane to pay a freshman. And I think they even said bottom barrel is $750,000. That's a lot for an unproven product, for an unproven player, right? Yeah, you could be a 5-star. Yeah, you could be one of the top guys. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to work out. It's the same for college football. You'll see some of the top players and they end up going to the NFL and being busts. Like Matt Leinart was elite at USC. He went to the NFL and was a bust. Jamarcus Russell was elite at LSU. Went to the NFL and was a bust. So it's like that definitely can happen. And it's like I agree with Kirby. Again, I want the kids to get paid, but the key is it ain't just about the check, right? It's the next level check. That's the generational wealth and money if you're smart with it, if you know what to do with it, right? So you go there to Georgia, you go get developed by Glenn Schumann, you know what I'm saying, all a staff, offensive coordinators, and things like that. And then you're prepared for the NFL and everything that it presents to you, and you can go get them second, third, even maybe even fourth contract, right? Because that's the next level money, right? A lot of guarantees and different things like that. Yeah, the couple M's is good. You know what I'm saying? And yes, they're getting paid at UGA, but to his point, like, I'm not putting all that money, you know what I'm saying, for that. Or if you think, oh, well, I'm 5 stars, so I can just do what I want. No, and that's what I think Kirby Smart is saying here. Like, we're gonna do what we need to do. You're gonna get paid. You're gonna be treated well. You're gonna do what you need to do. But at the same time, I'm not finna spend a whole bag. I'm not finna get in this bidding war for the number one player and he wants $7 million for 1 year or for a 3 year term. I don't think Kirby's doing that. And I don't think Kirby wants to do that. And I don't think there's a problem with that. I think it's smart and I think he's trying to build. And again, I said it in my video, if you are putting that much money into one player, first off, he better work out. Numero uno. And then numero dos, if he does not work out, you know what I'm saying? You're kind of screwed, but you also have to build the depth of your team, right? This ain't college basketball where, you know what I'm saying, you can put one and then build out with like just random, you know what I'm saying, major players or JUCO players or Division II players. Like, that's not how this goes. Yes, it's recruiting with JUCO. Yes, it's recruiting with other, obviously, you know what I'm saying, divisions, but I got a whole 70, 80, 90, 100 players to fill out my roster, right? Like, there's injuries. This is a very physical game. You know what I'm saying? The battle of attrition. Like, I'm not about to just put my team, you know what I'm saying, in a bad spot to pay you your money because you can't see and have a sense of direction or see and have some foresight of what's in the future. It's just dumb to me. So I agree with Kirby. I think he got the right message. Yes, they are paying players at Georgia. Like, we're not going to sit here and play. Like, of course. But to his point, you want to make sure that it makes sense. You want to make sure that obviously it's making a difference. And the whole thing is not this check. It's the next one, right? Having a couple M's, yeah, looks good. But to create generational wealth, it's the next level. Period. Kirby gets it. And hopefully more athletes get it. All right, man. So that is it for the obviously college football news, man. We're gonna get into some team specific things, and we're gonna start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. All right. So let's start with them. We're gonna pull out some layers of what was said by head coach Kalen DeBoer. Okay, this is via Bama online. They are on 3 sites. So as you guys can see here, I guys let you see, and I will read it from obviously my notes. Okay. So let's pull that up. You guys can see it. He said basically at the QB1 spot, I don't think of it as a controversy. Not this time of the year. The board told former Alabama linebacker Christian Miller, it's a great competition we have going on. That's a good thing. I said that in a positive way because these guys have gotten after it. It's exciting. I know for fans to see these guys and see what it's been seeing in practice. And sometimes you got to be careful not to oversell what's happening each and every day on the practice field. But that was more of the same of what we've seen from Keelon. And Austin was a little bit limited, but Austin's highlight reel would be something that people would be super impressed with as well. Seems to me, pill layers of this, you know what I'm saying? He's basically just trying to say, yeah, this is still a competition. We're not anointing, you know what I'm saying, Keelon Russell as a QB1. And we're going to go through the whole process. And this is going to kind of pretty much bleed probably all the way through summer and obviously to fall camp, right? I think if anybody knows, obviously he was limited, had an injury, feels high about Austin Mack, feels like he can perform. I feel like Keelan did a lot for himself. And having the backing of Ryan Coleman I was about to call him a star player. I think he is, but obviously he's kind of regressed a little bit. Having the backing of him, I think, helps out a lot. Right now, obviously, it comes down to the coaches and what they want and what they want to have out there. But if he's seeing what he said after the spring game and the whole fan base is loving what Keelan's doing, you got to go with Keelan. Like if you were Kalen DeBoer, you can't overcomplicate this. You know, yes, Austin Mack's been there. Yes, he's a junior. Yes, he's been waiting for his opportunity. But if there's a player that's clear cut the favorite, it's not going to be a good look, especially if you go, let's say he names Austin Mack the starter. Let's say the team struggles early on, they're 1-2 or 1-3, right? They're going to look at you crazy when, yo, we've had Keelan the whole time and Mack is struggling. Why is Keelan not in the game, right? Then you got players start kind of giving you that side eye and that look like, yo, bro, what you got going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? We putting all our bodies on the line, playing hurt and injured, and you ain't playing the best player, right? It just creates that unnecessary friction you don't need, right? And I ain't saying DeBoer's gonna do that, but I'm saying if you're trying to be wise, play the best player, bro, right? Because you don't want to create that rift. You don't want to create that disagreement or that wedge between you and Keelon. And then, oh, well, my 5-star's leaving. Yeah, I got Trent Seaborn coming in. Yeah, I got Chet Tamala. Yeah, I'm in position to land another 5-star in Elijah Haven. But it's like, don't run away that 5-star. You know what I'm saying? Don't run away that player who looks good and play at a very high level. We brought down this film on the channel. So if you're killing the board, yeah, I get it. Don't obviously sell who QB1 is right now, 100%. But at the end of the day, I'm going with Keelon. I won't play around with this. I'm going with Keelon. I'm starting Keelon, and I'm putting my full faith and trust in him, and he's going to get us back to the CFP. You just got to be smart. Can't overcomplicate it. No disrespect to Austin Mack. You can always hit the portal. Know what you got to do. You got to, you know what I'm saying, do the political stuff. I get it. But don't overcomplicate it. Start that guy, obviously, Keelon Russell. All right. So that is obviously there. Couple players trending up after spring practice, excuse me, is Trayshawn Brown. I think the running back room for Alabama is much better. Okay. We look at Daniel Hill. We talked about obviously how much he squats and all that good stuff, right? But you also have, like I said, Trayshawn Brown's in there, Xavier Cowell's in there. This room is very talented. So the key is they got to get better blocking wise, right? Of course. But you got multiple guys in there that can make plays. And in this game, Trayshawn Brown did a couple things, had several runs, ended up being about 25 yards. He also had about 3 catches for 38 yards. So did what he needed to do in terms of that. But you just need the talent level. So think about probably Daniel Hill, the starter. You got EJ Crowell rotating in, and also Trayshawn Brown, who had a pretty good spring game as well. So if you were Coach DeBoer and obviously the offense, you gotta obviously make sure that you got the offensive line of lot for these guys. But I would say Trayshawn Brown did a lot for himself, and he should be a player to continue, obviously, to watch and play at a high level. Next up, I got to say Derek Meadows. 5 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. He played very, very good, and he's raising the stock. Now, major news, obviously, for Alabama is they just lost, obviously, a very key player, right? So this opens it up, in my opinion, for a guy. Hold on, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to find the news. Hold on one second. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, here it is. This is the latest update. So this is why the Derek Meadows, how he performed is huge, right? Because Noah Rogers is going to be out for a significant amount of time, right? He says we do expect it to be a situation where he will get to be back during the season, right? So he's going to miss probably the early part of the season. Went down with an injury on A-Day, right? So for Derek Meadows to go and perform that way, you might got a position to get even more PT along with the rotation of Sedarian Morgan, Latsier Brooks, so on and so forth. So I think Derek Meadows took full advantage of that opportunity. And I think despite even this injury, Alabama should be okay at the wide receiver spot. So it's time for the young guys to take the next step. And I think Derek Meadows did exactly that. All right. Then we got to talk about Steve Mamoa, right? He had a pretty good spring game as well for obviously the Crimson Tide. What I'm saying? Big athletic guy, 6'4", 301, and former JUCO transfer, right? He's just a guy like went off. And here's his play right here via Miller's edge. He just blows up AK Deers, another guy in the running back room I didn't even mention, former highly recruited player. But you see it right there, just the physicality, getting off the bus and just tossing them. That is what Bama needs. Bama absolutely needs more physicality from across the board, whether it's your linebacker, it's your defensive line. This is exactly what Bama needs to set the tone, right? And if Bama's going to get this kind of team, next season, then you feel a lot better about Kendall. A lot of things that were questioned about Bama was their physicality last year, all right? But if you got this, and it's disseminates throughout the entire team, you feel pretty good because you got multiple players that can come down in that box and make big plays and hits. It's going to set the tone in the physicality, man. So Steve Mamoa is going to be obviously a player to watch. I might butcher his name. Y'all forgive me. But he's going to be one to watch, especially blowing up plays like this. All right. So that's the latest on Bama. Like I said, Noah Rogers is officially out. Derek Meadows is stepping up. Steve obviously doing his thing defensively. And I think Keelon Russell is the QB1. If I'm Bama, I'm not going to play no games. Cool. You want to continue to kind of drag it out? No problem. Fall camp, probably first day of fall camp. After the first practice, I'm announcing Keelon Russell as my QB1. Period. I'm not going to play with it. Why play with it when I know what it is and I know what my team wants to do this year? Just, don't seem smart to me. But, I digress. Excuse me, y'all. Sorry about that. All right, so that is it for Bama. Now let's talk Texas football. All right, and we're gonna talk Arch Manning. Hold on one second, y'all. Sorry about that, y'all. I had to get myself right, man. I was just sound stuffy. Okay, so back to what we was talking about. We're talking about Arch Manning. Okay, so he has been really impressive, and here it is right here. The best I've seen him this spring. He's moved them up and down the field. A source told Texas quarterback, or a source on Texas quarterback Arch Manning, right? So what does that tell me? That tells me a guy that's confident, tells me a guy that's starting to kind of feel his groove, and it tells me a guy that's starting to kind of take that next step forward, right? If you Arch Manning. And we've seen it a little bit towards the end of the season. He started to get more comfortable. You know, we seen that viral clip of him. And he was like, I gotta just not care no more. I just don't care no more, right? And we see him go off against Michigan, right? So we see what Coach Sark did. Coach Sark surrounded him with the talent that he needed. Went obviously into the portal, got guys. Trevor Guzzi expected to be a big time playmaker on the offensive line this year. Go get Cam Coleman, right? You got young freshmen in there stepping up, right? You got obviously defensively Rasheem Biles. Offensively, you brought in Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, right? This team looks way better on paper. So I'm not surprised. The defense is good. They obviously got a new defensive coordinator now and Will Muschamp. Defense should be better, but the fact that Arch is doing that, it tells me guy that's in the groove. He's comfortable and he has more talent around him to take that next step forward. So I'm not too surprised to see this, especially with how Arch Manning ended the regular season last year, right? Not surprised to see this at all. So he's been doing his thing, and I expect him to continue to do his thing. And I think he will be a player that would be right back up there at the top of the draft boards. Struggled obviously last year in his first couple of reps and first couple of games. He should be much better this year, man. And I think they finally had a talent around him to help him in doing so. All right. And then I don't always like to talk about backup quarterbacks, man, but we got to mention Dia Bell because he's supposed to be next up in line for Texas, I think, next year. I know they got KJ Lacey as well. You know what I'm saying? But I think Dia Bell is going to be the very impressive one coming over from Florida, powerhouse down there. Dia Bell is going to be a guy to continue to watch. He says the guy remains calm. He doesn't get emotional. He doesn't get rattled, right? So basically, whatever's thrown at him, it doesn't matter. Blitzes, different formations, you know what I'm saying, different schemes, whatever it may be, he's getting thrown at. This dude is always cool, calm, and collected, and never just does things that is out of the ordinary, does things that don't make sense, right? So I love that, right? This tells me he's poised. This tells me, right, he has a good head on his shoulders. And any adversity you throw at him, he's going to be able to find a way to get through it. And that's what you want at the quarterback spot because it's the most scrutinized position in football, right? So for Dia Bell, right, hey, you continue to learn, right? Been system a little bit now. One more year, you get to learn from obviously Arch Manning. Next year, this is your squad. This is your team, right? You know, now you have to probably have some big shoes to fill if Texas, accomplishes everything they want to accomplish. But if you Dia Bell, take it full time on the head, learn the system. So then when next year comes around, hey, this is my squad now. And then I can be the guy for my Longhorns. So, excuse me, very good thing to see. The things take a step forward. And I believe he will be the guy moving forward, obviously, for them after Arch leaves. Okay. All right. And then the final presser, right? Y'all go follow Orange Bloods. They do a pretty good job covering Texas. Obviously, I think on 3. You know what I'm saying as well. Let's see. Did I pull this up twice? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Nope. 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 Okay, hold on, y'all. Pull this up. Okay, so like I said, Orange Buzz does a good job, and this is Inside Texas on 3 site. But go check this out, man. They talk about this basically the presser, and you know what I'm saying, some key things that they want. Remember, their spring game is this weekend, right? And they're kind of doing a scrimmage. They're not really doing a spring game as they kind of announced the switch. But Sark said some very important things when you read the tea leaves, and obviously everything he had to say. And I think one of obviously the big ones when you look at it is the defensive players he mentioned from via Orange or via Inside Texas. He says several defensive players, Colin Simmons, Rasheem Biles, and Hayward Howard are mentioned as exemplars of this aggressive, disruptive style defense, which is exactly what Texas wants to do. Why they went in the portal and got a couple of these guys, and they brought back Colin Simmons for one more season, right? And I think another thing he obviously mentioned is players being able to bounce back. KJ Lacey and Diabell. Talk about him being poised, right? He loves players who gets more reps and they get better within those reps, right? So that's another big time thing he mentioned as well, and just the development and the team's effort to get better every single day, right? And that's exactly what you want. Exactly what you want if you Texas. You want to take that step forward this year, and you want to be able to get back to a CFP playoff like how you did a few years ago under Quinn Ewers, getting deep into postseason and making some noise, man. So obviously some good things. We'll have more intel and insight. Obviously, see what happens on Saturday. I'll be at Georgia Tech spring game on Saturday, but when I get home, I'll try to find out what happened, any pressers I need to watch or read or listen to, and then we'll react to obviously Texas and everything they got going on. But that is going to do it for Texas. Nothing really crazy right now. Humbly, you know what I'm saying. Obviously, that was his final presser, but nothing too crazy. We'll have more obviously this weekend. See what kind of happens with the Longhorns, man. But all right, let's talk Georgia now. Talking Georgia ball. All right. So thought this was a pretty good quote. Like I said, Kirby has been in all the national headlines right now. But here's what he said about missing the mark in the CFP. Remember, they went pretty deep. They ended up losing in the quarterfinals to Ole Miss, a game they probably should have won. Humbly, he says, "I would never apologize for winning the SEC title. I think it is the hardest thing to do in sports to win the SEC title in almost any sport. Our conference is so hard, and when we went to 16 teams, it made it harder. But we've missed the mark in the playoff 2 years in a row, and I give a lot of credit to those two teams, Ole Miss and Notre Dame. And remember, they got mollywopped against Notre Dame a few years ago. But Ole Miss, that game was electric. It's probably one of the best games that you'll find, and why we want the college football playoff. You know what I'm saying? For things like that, they were throwing haymakers. Like they just didn't have an answer for Trinidad Chambliss. He went crazy on them. And it's crazy because the game before they played earlier in the year, he struggled, but dude went bananas. They didn't have an answer for him when he escaped the pocket. You know what I'm saying? But if you Georgia, like he said, I think winning the SEC title, yeah, of course, it's important. And I think winning that is not easy, especially now when you look at you're gonna have 9 SEC games per year and only 3 non-conference. You know what I'm saying? That's not easy to do and to win that. And that's a lot on you, and that's a lot of physicality as well. You know what I'm saying? So, I think Kirby's right. Like they have not kind of gotten to what they wanted to. They have not gotten back to winning multiple national championships. And when they won it, it was a 14 playoff, right? So it's different, right? This is more of a, I don't want to say maze, but this is more of a marathon, right? Because now you gotta have it, you gotta really have depth. That's why I was going back to that earlier point. I was telling y'all, like, oh, I'm not paying 7 million to one high school player over 3 years. Just not happening. And that's why Kirby's saying that, like, yo, I gotta build up the rest of my team. So when we go and play at Ole Miss again or Notre Dame, or we might play Ohio State, when it matters most and it's in the CFP playoff, we can come out on top. You're not doing that if you're paying 7 million to one player. Just know you got to have other players that can make a difference, and sometimes those players don't even make a difference, right? It's the underdogs that make a difference, right? It's the guys that, oh, this guy was a former walk-on, he gets the big time sack and forced fumble to get the ball back to you to Georgia to get you a field goal range and win the game, right? So, for him, I think winning the SEC titles, those are great things. He's getting 12 plus wins. I think Kirby's in a good spot. You got to respect what he's done. He's won 2 national championships. He's been to multiple, obviously, CFP playoffs, won them. You know what I'm saying? So for him, yeah, they've missed the mark, but we're not going to sit and say, oh, they haven't been successful because they didn't win a CFP championship since, what I'm saying, a couple of years ago before it expanded. Nah. Kirby's been doing his thing. Georgia's been doing his thing. And it's going to be interesting to see this year about the depth and if they can go further in the CFP championship. I can't wait. I cannot wait. All right. We got one more thing we want to obviously hit on. Excuse me. And we just want to talk about some standouts today. Right, spring scrimmage standouts, guys that you kind of want to keep an eye on for Georgia when they had a spring, and it's going to be on ESPN Plus. But Taylor is one. That's obviously who stood out, did his thing. London Roldan, another one they got. Remember, he came over from Norfolk Coney. He's expected to kind of have a bigger role this year, burner, deep threat in that slot. So I expect for him to kind of have a better day. And then Taylor, just that big body that can create those big plays down the field as well. A name that's buzzing for Georgia, though, from what I've heard, is Chase Linton. Right now, remember, he came over from North Atlanta. He was a primetime prospect. I think he was a 4-star. And, he was committed to Rutgers before kind of Georgia came into the fold. And he's starting to kind of turn heads, right? He's been patient. Sometimes you don't always play that first year at Georgia. And some guys want to transfer out. But normally what I've been seeing, guys stick it out. You know what I'm saying? And I think Linton is starting to kind of see the fruits of his labor, right? Didn't play a whole lot last year, but now kind of making some noise. And I think he's going to have a role for this team next year. Because the key thing with Georgia is they haven't been as potent in stopping the run, and they haven't been generating as much pressure as they usually do, right? Because Georgia can get after you, right? And when they get after you, it's a long day. It's a long damn day. So they got to find a way to get more pressure. So we got guys like Chase Linton and Elijah Griffin on the inside and Contavious Johnson on the outside, edge linebacker role. You need more of those guys to make a difference and to be able to make those plays. So I think it's going to be very intriguing to see. But Linton has obviously been doing his thing and obviously standing out. And then one that's kind of floating under the radar is this guy right here. This is Nnamdi Agboko. He's been obviously standing out as well. He's a redshirt freshman, 6'4", 355. He's been turning heads and has been having some very disruptive moments as well, right? So if Georgia can get back to that disruption, if they can get back to making those plays consistently, you know what I'm saying, and staying and making a living in the backfield, look the hell out, right? Because that's when you go back and you look at the teams that won with the N'Kobe Deans and the Jalen Carters and the Jordan Davis, you know what I'm saying, and the Keelon Ringos in the back end, they were a very physical team, and they wouldn't hit you in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? You got tossed and hit around. That's what made Georgia, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? So if they can get back to that, you might want to look out. You know what I'm saying? You might want to look out. But all right, y'all, we're going to keep it going, man. We got a couple more teams we're going to break down before we obviously end off the show. And we're going to go to Georgia Tech, a team I cover very, very, very closely. All right, so we're going to pull up some things for y'all to see. Give me 1 second, closing out some of these little tabs real quick. But we're going to talk a little bit about, obviously, the Yellow Jackets. Actually, you know what? They be tripping. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna actually show y'all via my Twitter because I shared the clip. I want you guys to see the clip that I posted earlier today of what Winky had to say about Alberto Mendoza, who I think, to be honest with you guys, I really believe he is running away with the position. Now, again, I don't have any intel. Coach Chris Winky today to kind of pretty much said, like, they still going through it. They still evaluating their position and different things like that. But I think Alberto Mendoza, and you guys can read the tea leaves and hear what he had to say. I think that he's starting to kind of stand out. And I think he is obviously starting to make a difference with everything that he is doing. All right, so I'm gonna roll the clip and let you guys.
Yeah, there was a lot of unknowns when he got here, right? And so you never know. But I do know this, that he's a high level thinker. He can process information, and that's what we're looking for, especially in this offense with a lot of the adjustments we're going to have to make at the line of scrimmage with the quarterback. He, in essence, lives in this building. He loves football. And I think because of that, it gives him an opportunity to have success in an offense like this. He's a gym rat. He loves the game, asks a lot of questions, doesn't feel comfortable going to practice unless he has the answer. So elite release, gets the ball out quick, processes information, better athlete than maybe most people would give him credit for, moves around really well, sees the field. So he's been a lot of fun to work with. So he's one of those guys that challenges coaches, right? Like, it makes us make sure that we're crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's, but he's got a chance to be a high level player.
Do you have it, y'all? High level player, right? So when we talk about it, I think he said it best, right? He's a high level thinker, elite processing, excellent release, and above all else, his gym rat. Now I'm gonna pull up the pressure so you guys can see what he had to say. I didn't like the questions today, if I'm humbly honest. I felt like they centered it around too much of his brother. Like, Alberto is not Fernando. Let me say it again. Alberto is not Fernando. Okay, two different people. Okay, brothers, two different people, right? And I felt like, in my questioning, I was like, talk about being a little bit of a gym rat and high process thinker, because that's what's gonna matter. Because this offense, operationally, you're gonna have to be able to know the pre-snap and the post-snap, right? And you're gonna have to be able to set the protections and be able to know where this person is supposed to go and where that person's supposed to go, right? That's the reality of the situation. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Alberto has come in, and even though the hype's been on him, I think he's done it the right way. And he gives me a guy that's locked in. Like, he's not trying to, prove anything. He's not trying to act like he's better than people. He gives me like, okay, I got to come in here and do my work. And you know that by what he said about that answer when he said, oh yeah, I wasn't a high level recruit. You know what I'm saying? My brother was 2-star, I was a low 3-star, and they even had a guy transfer over that was a 4-star prospect, and I had to compete with him. To me, that shows me he don't run for smoke, number one. Two, he not afraid to compete. And three, he could potentially be a leader with this team. You know what I'm saying? So, again, nothing has been said, about the QB1 position or whatever. But to me, it feels like with the performance he had last week, 3 touchdowns, in scrimmage, upcoming, obviously, game here. If he goes and he balls and he runs everything operationally right and gets them into the right play and make sure the cadence is good and all that stuff, man, I think he does a lot for his stock to raise for him to be the QB1. But I'm going to roll a clip from my YouTube, man. Obviously, I was there in attendance of just Mendoza and, obviously something important that he had.
Some great stuff on the field, so I'm excited.
I'm a boot catcher, Gem 2 here in Atlanta. I know life is still happening really fast here for the next couple of weeks, but how do you describe what it's been like for you and your family over this past year?
Of Georgia Tech stood out to you to make your decision?
Yeah, obviously Coach Key, the culture he harps, the way he runs his program is top notch. I mean, it's one of the top cultures that I've been around so far. I mean, I'll put it up there with the national championship program. And it's just that really stood out, how Coach Winkie recruited me and how the players. I mean, it was a quick process, so you're kind of betting. But being here for the last couple of months, I've embraced it, and it's been just like that. I mean, everyone wants to be great, everyone wants to be better, everyone's supporting each other. We're really a family, a close-knit team, and that's what the best teams do. They're very close, and they're very like just very close. Yeah.
Follow up. Have you done anything fun in Atlanta?
Yeah.
The Masters.
Yeah, I went to the Masters. My brother came down, so we went to the Maxwell Award that he got, and just going out to dinners with some of the guys, just hanging out, playing video games, just doing that stuff, just having a good time. So it's been awesome.
Garrett?
The last name Mendoza, it's going to carry a lot of.
Of what you can do. You've been described as a gym rat, kind of coming in early, staying late. Talk a little about that, and also just Coach Winkie just said you have elite kind of processing skills. Where does that kind of come from?
Yeah, obviously it comes from last year, just learning under my brother, showing me how I did it. Because coming as a freshman, no freshman knows how to operate, how their process should be, and just seeing that all last year, spring, summer, fall, from my brother is where that came from. So I'm just kind of copying the blueprint and kind of putting my own little touches on it, on how he got there and how he succeeded, because we're pretty similar. Although we're very different, we're pretty similar. At the end of the day, we're brothers. So just following that is really going to help me take that next step, hopefully. So I'm excited.
Yourself with a new group. You talked about it earlier, but how are you just ingratiating yourself with these guys and kind of building that camp?
Yeah, just being a guy. I mean, just showing them that you're getting relatable, and just showing them you're one of them. You're not better. You're not worse. You're just a guy. I mean, I don't come in here thinking my last name is hot. I mean, I'm Alberto Mendoza. We're people at the end of the day. I don't really care what my brother's done, what people think of my brother. I mean, I'm me, and I came in here just trying to be me. That's all I can be at the end of the day. And they embrace, and they can embrace me. They cannot embrace me, and they've embraced me really well so far, and I've embraced them. So it's been awesome. The locker room is terrific.
There I have it. As you guys heard right there, right? I'm me. I'm not my brother, right? Pretty simple. You know what I'm saying? So people got to I know the last name and I get it. His brother won the Heisman, number one overall pick likely. But at the same time, this is a different cat. So I'm excited to see what he does. I'm not going to comment the throws I seen in the spring. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to let y'all see it on, on the 18th, on Saturday. But I will say this kid is impressive. You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait to see what he does. I can't wait to see what he's going to look like, man. And I think the 18th will tell us a lot. April 18th on Saturday at 1 p.m. We will find out a lot about Alberto Mendoza and how good he is. And if he can go and he can kind of torch that Tech defense that's much improved, defensive line is really damn good. With so many injuries to the wide receiver room, yeah, you're gonna have to start putting something. So that's why I said, like, for me, my breakout player is gonna be Alberto Mendoza. I think he's gonna be one that surprises the nation. I think a lot of people gonna sleep him. I think he was like number 15 in CBS Sports college quarterback rankings. I think a lot of people are gonna be eating crow when it comes to that. And I think he's gonna be a guy that really puts Georgia Tech at that level. Like they've already been kind of teetering on the national level, right? Last year, 8-0, taking steps forward each and every year, 7-6, 7-6, 9-4. I think Mendoza's gonna get them over, man. I think they can easily get up there, close to that 10-win range. But we got to see what happens. Spring will obviously tell us a lot. And one player I wanted to mention was Grady Adamson. Very impressive player, man. He obviously was talking to us as well. And it feels like he's kind of en route and in suit to getting potentially that QB2 role, that backup role potentially. Don't want to count on Graham Knowles and Cole Bergeron, who's obviously very impressive as well. But it feels like Grady just like maybe one step ahead, man, with the questions he's asking, how he's processing, how he's obviously been in the film room with Chris Wingy, and how he is just anticipating throws, right? And how he is trying to just figure out, okay, if this guy breaks here, then I need to throw the ball here. Like already kind of having that mindset and that mentality, I think says a lot. And I think Grady has it. And I think Grady's going to be a problem, you know what I'm saying, here pretty soon, man. And then last but not least on the show, I want to talk about some freshman standouts, right? So a couple freshman standouts, man, that we want to talk about. Keelon Jones. Mentioned him last week, man. Coach Key was talking about him making very impressive plays in the scrimmage. And obviously standing out, right? He was like, he had great plays. Very, very bright future. He's going to play predominantly safety, not really rotating around. Tay Harris is rotating, but this guy's not. This guy's going to play one kind of specific role for them. But I think the key, like you said, you just want depth, right? You just want guys you can, go to, right? And that freshman, he could play more down the stretch. And Coach Key has made an emphasis on having his guys play early, especially freshmen, if they're ready to go, right? So I think for Keelon, you in a good spot, right? What you got Jalen Barr, you also have Savion Riley, but you have the potential. If you can play, you're going to play. And with some of the injuries, different things like that, if Keelon Jones continue to take the nail on the head and continue to make the plays that you need to make, then I think you might see the field in 2026. Next up, who's definitely going to see the field, he's come up several times from Coach Key, Coach Simpson, Coach Pope, Christian Speakman. I think that kid right there is going to see the field a lot. And I think that was a diamond in the rough that Georgia Tech found, right? Played offensive line predominantly at obviously Morrow, a little bit of defensive line sprinkled in there. But the valuation they did on him and how much he's been just, kind of being that game wrecker, according to Jess Simpson and Pope, I think he's going to be a guy that gets a lot of playing time and, definitely on those downs and distances when they're running the football, expect for him to be in there. And then you got potentially, if Speakman can turn into the player that they're kind of saying, what a Speakman, with obviously Tawfiq Thomas, with a Christian Garrett there as well. You got a nice potential trio right there in the inside and interior of your defense that can just absolutely maul people. So that's going to be something to watch for as well. And interesting to see what he's going to be doing in the spring game. And he might be potentially dangerous. So that's another player I wanted to obviously mention as a young buck. And then Braylon Outlaw. This name will get a little bit kind of glossed over, but you have to be like within the team to kind of know. But he's a player, man. Eventually, like Coach Key was like, before upper respiratory infection that he had, that he was going to potentially run with the ones and potentially get, just a little bit of, shine and be able to play with a veteran linebacker. I think that says a lot right now. Remember, he's from Pike Road. That was a big time flip for them because he was at Tennessee at one point, but they flipped him to Georgia Tech. So Outlaw's already standing out, and he could be a guy. Believe it or not, another guy, Melvin Jordan, Cayman Spalding, EJ Lightsey, Kyle Efert. But I'm telling you, if you athletic and you can make plays, Outlaw might be on that damn field in year one. So those are a couple of freshman standouts I wanted to obviously mention. Honorable mentions, Hurd Twins. They've been coming up all throughout, obviously camp and stuff like that. But very, very interesting time on the flats. I can't wait to see what happens. All right. Next up, man, we're going to my favorite team, and that's the Miami Hurricanes, man. You know what I'm saying? They obviously signed our guys, Shannon Dawson, man, and the defensive coordinator to some new monster deals, man. So we're going to try to pull that up here in just a second. Let's see. All right, here it is right here. Let me share my screen. All right, so here it is via Pete Thamos, a new multi-year contract with defensive coordinator Corey Heatherman. We'll start with him. In his first year at Miami, he led a turnaround to the nation's number 5 scoring defense from the number 70 the year before he arrived, right? And one thing you can't say is he's obviously improved this team, you know what I'm saying? And they went from 68th in 2022, 45th in 2023, 69th, 70 pretty much in 2024 to obviously 5th, 14.8 last season, man. So he's obviously done his thing and he has his team playing at a high level. And we know, obviously, it's defensive line coaches, it's the edge coaches, it's the linebacker coaches. But Miami's defense was pretty good last season. And at times, when the offense kind of teetered a little bit and struggled a little bit, right, they could lean on their defense to come up with plays. They can lean on their defense not to give up splash plays down the field, man. So I think this is a great extension. He's going to be obviously great, for Miami for a long time. And you want to keep coordinator, like this home. You know what I'm saying? You want to keep him, where he's at and where he's making obviously his payback. And I think he did an outstanding job of doing what he did, for them. And he got obviously offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, which we'll talk about here as well. He's done a spectacular job, man. And he's really done it, which is what's so impressive. He's done it with so many different quarterbacks, right? You look at the last 3 years, Miami's constantly gotten a guy out of the portal, right? Cam Ward, obviously from Incarnate Ward. A lot of people were talking about that. He became the number 1 overall pick. Okay. Now we see what happens in year 2 with Tennessee as a new regime kind of comes in with Robert Salah and so much others. But he got him to the number 1 overall pick. And they won 10 games. You know what I'm saying? Now, they didn't make the CFP, unfortunately, but, they wasted that game against Syracuse. But, if the team around him was better and they had Corey Heatherman with the defense that they had this year, you damn right they won an Natty. Then this past year, he does it again, pretty much a resurgent Carson Beck, right? Because he came in he's kind of, they paid him a lot of money on. I'm not going to sit here and act like they didn't. They paid him a lot of money on to come obviously to Miami and to play for the Hurricanes, but the development of him, he was better in key spots. Yes, at the end, he kind of sold the game. He did, but he played better football. He did what he needed to do in the constraints of the offense, right? Against Texas A&M, not really turning over the football, making the right reads late. Ole Miss game, having to lead that game-winning drive for them to win and to beat them, running it in instead of forcing an errant pass or throw for them to lose, right? He made the necessary throws and the key plays for them to get to that point. We have to acknowledge that. And you just see the development of all these players, right? Getting the most out of Keelan Marion, getting the most, obviously, out of Malachi Tony, who's become a superstar. Can't even just walk around no more. Kids is flocking up to him, right? Seeing Mark Fletcher continue to grow and develop in this offense and want to come back a whole nother year, right? Dawson has done a lot for this team and to get them to where they go. Now this year, a new challenge, bringing in Cooper Barkate, Samorian Wingo, along with Malachi Tony, right? Obviously, with a new quarterback in Darian Mensah, right? Bringing back pretty much all your running backs from last season. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very intriguing to see, man. But he definitely deserved a new contract extension, and he definitely did his thing this past season. And he's going to be a fun one to watch. And Miami should still be in that national championship conversation. Just my thoughts, man. All right, we're going to leave it there for the Hurricanes. Not really too much news to really talk about today on them. So we will obviously leave that there. All right, man, let's go ahead and go to the Rocky Top, man. Obviously, one of the top platforms is Rocky Top Insider, man. You got Knoxville News as well as another one, man. But we're going to talk about freshmen that actually stood out and did a thing in the spring game this past week, right? And we're going to kind of just start with, obviously, Braden Rouse. Now, he's a guy, very impressive freshman performance, in my opinion. Did his thing, showed off his ability as a pass rusher. Now, they're very loaded. You know what I'm saying? When you look at, obviously, the roster, hold on. We're going to pull up the depth chart. There it is. Right? So this is kind of like projected of what, obviously, Rocky Top has, right? So they have him, right under Jaden Parlati, who I think will get a lot of playing time this year, and senior Arian Carter, who initially hit the portal but decided to come back, right? All right, so for Braden Rouse, making a lot of plays, right? And he even said, hey, I wanted to come in and come to a program where I wasn't going to start immediately, right? I would be playing with the best of the best so I could get better. So he's already kind of with that mindset of, I want to be the best I can be when it is my time. I'm not going to rush this process. I'm not going to come in here and try to take over as a freshman. I want to learn. So then when my time is, I can dominate. And he's already dominating in the third and second level competition. And I think he's going to be a guy that finds a role somehow, some way, whether it's blitzing, coming off the edge. The physicality that kid plays with is different, and you can't deny it. When you have that as a freshman that's young and wants to do that at an elite level consistently, you got to look the hell out. You know what I'm saying? You gotta look the hell out. And I think he's gonna be a problem and very exciting to watch this year. So that is a freshman I am super excited about for the Tennessee Vols. And then next, I'm gonna go offensive line, and we're gonna talk about Gabriel Osenda. Now he was a 5-star prospect, and it's gonna be interesting to see if he gets PT this year, right? Because he's playing that tackle spot, right there where David Sanders is. Now David Sanders struggled last year a little bit with injuries. He was able to play the last couple of games, but he's expected to be the starter next year for them. They paid a lot of money on him and obviously Osenda. But will Osenda get a little bit of burn, right? That's going to be kind of the question there, for me as the backup against David Sanders, right? But Osenda was another one that had a really good, obviously, spring game, did his thing, and he's massive, 6'8", 330, y'all. So he could be somebody that'll be a staple in this offensive line for years to come. It's just hopefully how patient will he be, at the position, and how patient will he be, if he don't play a lot year one. That'll be very interesting. Or do they rotate and move him around? Right? Do they rotate? Do they move him around? Do they, put him at another key spot, where he can go? Right? They got right tackle, Ori Williams, Jesse Perry. It'll be interesting. I don't think he goes there, but it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there as well. All right. So that's another freshman standout. And then last but not least is going to be Carter Gooden. He plays defensive line. He did his thing, y'all. Very impressive. Made a living in the backfield. And was able to pretty much record a sack against Ryan Stahl. So he's another guy you got to talk about more. And it's going to be very intriguing to see what he's going to be able to do. But he's the guy on the defensive line. But everything that's going on with Chaz Coleman and, kind of how rocky that situation is. Rocky top. It's going to be very intriguing to see what happens there. But last but not least, I want to talk about this guy right here. And that is Faison Brandon, right? And I want to talk about this the QB spot. If I'm a Tennessee fan, right, I know that this went deep, last year. I know this went deep all the way until I think maybe after the first week of fall camp, right? So I'm trying to be patient, but there was a little bit of concern, right? Because you got people overthrowing people, missing some throws, different things like that. Faison Brandon probably has the most upside of the three and obviously potential, right? Can do things with his legs and different things like that and buy time. But if I'm Tennessee, I'm a little concerned, especially with the veteran. Like Ryan Stahl is supposed to be playing at a better level, right? George McIntyre has sat for quite a while, and he looks like he is poised to take over, maybe for the QB1 spot. But they're going to need to ascend. We haven't really seen that, right? Obviously, we've seen some glimpses, some flashes. But if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm a little worried because it's been too inconsistent, and nobody has really separated themselves. Like Alabama, we go, someone be like, "Oh, what's the competition, Najeh?" But Keelon Russell has went in and kind of separated himself. Tramel Jones has separated himself from Aaron Philo, right? And it's okay to have, QB competitions all the way through the fall. That's fine. But I feel like nobody really separated themselves from that trio and put in all that work during the spring, and nobody really stood out for real. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm a little bit concerned with that. And I want to kind of find a solution, obviously, to that. And hopefully by fall camp, we kind of know, okay, this is going to be the guy. But I feel like right now, it's still up for grabs for the Vols. Still up for grabs to see who it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to rush the decision. Yes, Faison Brandon is talented. Yes, Faison Brandon is a very potential to be an elite guy. But at the same time, I want to make sure he is ready. You don't throw a true freshman in there unless they're ready. Okay? Because once you do, there's no coming back. It's hard to go throw a freshman out there and then bench him and then bring him back. Ask Oklahoma about that. You know what I'm saying? You can ask several teams about that. You have to be sure and ready. So yes, on paper, you're like, I go for a 5-star Faison Brandon. But at the same time, you want to make sure bro is ready and ready to take the position. Don't want to rush a decision like that, in my humble opinion. But that's going to do it for today's show, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in, man. Obviously, got into all the good stuff, all the team-specific things, Georgia Tech, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, obviously, and my Hurricanes. So super excited about that. And talk about some college football news, man. So y'all know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all holler at me in the DMs, man, at Najeh Wilk on all platforms. And I got y'all covered, man. So until next time, enjoy the rest of you guys' day. And thank you for always tuning in to The Truth with Najeh Wilkins. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.